All right, guys, I'm showing you how to create a enterprise lab. First, we're going to follow the link to the Evaluate Windows 10 Enterprise. And you can see here's the website. Now just go ahead and expand the Windows 10 Enterprise. And you'll go ahead and click continue here. Now you go ahead and enter this information. And when you're done, click continue. This doesn't cost anything, it's completely free. It will take a while to download. So once it's finished downloading, take it from your downloads folder and set the image inside of a folder you have made. So you can see I've made a folder here, Win10 with today's date, just so I can keep track of my images, because you need to understand this is only a 90-day evaluation image. So after 90 days, it will no longer be good. Now you could always restore your virtual machines, but I find that sometimes even after restoring, I still run into issues down the line. So best way to do this is just keep track of it and just know 3 months out, this image may not be good anymore. Okay. Okay, so after I entered my information, I click continue. It's now asking me to please select your platform. I'm going to choose a 64-bit version. For the most part, since the release of Windows 10, most of the platforms have been 64-bit. Go ahead and also select your language of choice and click download. So another thing to take into mind, that I am going to put a link in the description below. Just know that Microsoft constantly changes their website, so the link might not work in the future. But what you can do is just type Microsoft Windows Enterprise image, and you can see this takes you to www.arrow.com. That's not the website we want to go to. And you can see this one takes you to the Microsoft Evaluation Center. That's where you want to go. So you go ahead and click on the link, and it'll take you just where you need to go. Okay. Okay, so what I did now is go back here. I just typed in Microsoft Windows Enterprise 2016 image for the Windows Server 2016. Clicked on this, that took me to the Microsoft Evaluation Center, which is where you want to go whenever you're downloading these images. And you can see they have some of the newer images as well. If you wanted to download Windows Server 2022, I'd say download whatever you see your business using, or whatever you may see that the business you're looking to be hired by is using. They may put it in the job description, but you just want to make sure you choose the Windows Server you're going to be utilizing on the job, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click ISO here, click continue. Again, it's asking for my information, so I'm just going to go ahead and input that and press continue. Again, it's asking me to input my language of choice. Go ahead and select yours and then click download. So I'm going to click download now. And you can see it's going to take 13, 14 minutes possibly. That's what it's telling me. Depending on the speed of your internet, it may be quicker or slower. Just go ahead and let that install. Do the same exact thing that I mentioned. Create a folder for the Windows Server 2016 image and the date, because while it is free, it's 100% free, meaning once you go past the 180-day evaluation, you won't be charged, you won't receive a bill in the mail from Microsoft asking you to pay for it. It simply will stop working. So yeah, after 180 days, you could just delete it. And yeah, this is downloading. We'll continue on in a second. All right, so this is the VirtualBox website. You can go and install VirtualBox for your operating system, just go over to downloads. Since I have a Windows machine, I'm gonna go and download the Windows version. Once you download, go and install it. Typically when it installs, you just click next until you get to the very end, and then it should start up. And you should be able to use the program off the bat. All right, so I'll go ahead and get VirtualBox open. All right, so here's my VirtualBox. You can see I have quite a few VMs, and that's a great thing about VirtualBox is you can just download virtual machines for any operating system. We'll just go ahead and create a new one. All right, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna click New, Machine, New, and we'll start off with the Windows 2016 server. And then I'll put it by today's date so I know when it expires. 13, 2000. All right. This is Windows 16. Perfect. Also, you can see I have a machine folder here. This is where it's going to store your virtual image. It's stored in my C drive, as you see. I want to change that. I want to put it on another drive that has more space. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, so I'm going to put it in this location, in the folder with the date on it. Going to select that folder. And now my virtual machine will be stored there. It's a lot better because you know where it's at. You don't have to go looking for it later. For the server, we'll just give it a bit more memory. It is a server, so yeah, it's going to need a little bit more memory. And create virtual hard disk. We'll go ahead and create one. That's fine. We'll click next. We'll dynamically allocate it, so we'll click next. All right, so it should store it in location that I specified, 50 gigs. That's okay. You know, there's a minimal storage amount, so 50 gigs is probably more than that. Let's go ahead and create it. All right, great. Now what we'll do next is we'll create a, actually we'll go ahead and start booting this up with the image. So go to settings here. And upon startup, it's going to ask me about the image. So I'm going to go ahead and start this up. You'll see what I'm talking about. Because it doesn't have an image to boot off of. Now, we downloaded the image from the website earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and navigate to that and just load the image. All right, so here you can see I navigated to the folder where I placed my Windows Server 2016 image. I'm going to go ahead and click open now and start. Now it's going to boot off that image. See, it's booting. And if you try to move your mouse around, you may notice that when you click into the virtual machine like I do now, we'll go ahead and click install now. At first, you may realize that your mouse gets stuck here. Oh, here we go. All right, one sec. All right, so let's look at the options here. You could install Windows Server Standard Eval. Then here you have Windows Server 2016 Standard Evaluation, and it says GUI is required. Now I like that because I don't want to be in the command line or PowerShell the whole time. I want to work with the GUI, and most enterprise environments you're going to be working with the GUI. So we'll go ahead and click next. Go next, select the EULA and user terms and agreement. All right, go ahead and click custom. Okay. Okay, we're going to go ahead and click next so we could install it. And it's going to begin installing Windows. Perfect. Go put this over here in the center. All right, so after that's finished installing, go ahead and type in your password. Make sure you remember it. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and type in mine here. All right. Another thing you can do so you don't forget your password is you can go ahead and just click over here and go to settings, go to description, and here you could input a description. So if you want to, put in your password here, so you remember it. Because when you're dealing with quite a few VMs, you may forget your password. You may have different passwords for different VMs. This is a VM I'm possibly gonna just delete afterwards, so it's not a big deal. I'm just gonna click OK on that. Yep, and there you go. So click finish on there. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and send a Control-Delete. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna click Input, Keyboard, insert Control-Delete. All right, now you're gonna go ahead and enter this password in. It should lock you in. It's gonna create your user profile on the computer. And if you ever want to exit, maybe you're having issues exiting your screen here, if you click on the right control button on your keyboard, the right control button, not the left control button, the right control button, right next to your arrows. If you hold that down while right clicking your mouse, you'll exit out the screen. That's kind of confusing at first, so just letting you know. You go ahead and allow. So make it discoverable. You can see that the license is good for 180 days. I'm going to go ahead and open up File Explorer. I'm going to explain a few things to you as we go through this process. So if you click on this PC, local disk C, you'll see your users folder. Click on that, you'll see your administrator folder. So when we sign on to the computer as the administrator, it created a folder for the administrator. This is called your Windows profile. So here's Windows profile. If you click on it, what we'll see inside, you'll see your desktop. This is a desktop I'm working with right now. You'll see a documents folder. You see all the folders you would expect to see for a normal user. Okay. There's always going to be a public folder in here. The public folder, so we'll click on that. Here you'll see public documents, public downloads, pictures. If you have ever put anything in a public folder, it'll show up in all the other folders for anyone that's signed in. So the administrator would see it. If you had one of your coworkers sign in with his profile, he'll see whatever is in that public folder. Okay, so go ahead and click out. I just thought I'd explain that to you as we're waiting for things to load. Right, so right off the bat, you're gonna see that your computer name is kind of funky. That's kind of long, and I want it to be more user-friendly. Also, if you work for an enterprise environment, they'll typically have naming conventions. This is probably not going to be in that naming convention, so you're going to want to change it. So we'll change this to DC1. So in an enterprise environment, you're going to have a domain controller. The domain controller is the root server, the root controller of your domain. Okay, so we'll go ahead and click OK. This is going to require a restart. So we'll go ahead and click OK. We'll go ahead and close out of that. And we'll go ahead and restart now. Okay, we're going to send a Control Delete here. Okay, now so if we go to local server, you're going to see the computer name has changed to DC1. Perfect. Let's go ahead and go back to the dashboard. And here you can see some of the services that are offered by our server. You have file and storage, so it's a file server, local server, all servers. Well, I just mentioned this is a domain controller, so it should host more services than that. We'll go ahead and add those roles and features, okay? All right, so we configured that. And here you can see it even guides you into the different steps, right? So we're going to add more features. We'll go ahead and click next. Go ahead and click next again. Go ahead and continue to click next, and you'll see the IP address of this server. Another thing you're going to want to do is you're going to set a static IP address. So we want an IP address that will not change at all. Currently, we have this IP address. And let's ensure that it doesn't change. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to all right, so here we go. We're going to click on your network here. It's going to show connected. We're going to open up the Network and Sharing Center. You're going to see the Ethernet here. Change adapter settings. Let's go ahead and change that. Go ahead and click on your Ethernet settings. And after that, you're going to go to properties. And you're going to click on IPv4 properties. Now you're going to set a static IP address. Whenever you're working with Windows servers, they should have static IP addresses. Okay, so here you can see I put 192.168.1. I'll go ahead and put in an IP address. So I'll choose 10. Now for the default gateway, I'm gonna go ahead and also put in the same IP address. For DNS, I'll put in the same IP address. All right. Subnet mask, you can go and leave it as it is. Click close, close. All right. And we'll go ahead and go previous. Let me go and go next. So you can see it's still showing that 215. I don't want that to be the IP address. So go ahead and click features. This might require a restart. Yeah, okay. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and restart real quick. Shouldn't take long. We'll give that a sec. All right, let's go ahead and send a Control Delete. So now you'll see it's not connected. It's because we're using an IP address that wasn't sent to us by our DHCP server. It's completely fine with me. All right, add roles and features. Next, next. Now you're seeing that IP address. All right, click next. Okay, so what kind of features are we going to add? We're going to add DHCP. So DHCP will allow us for this server to serve IP addresses to clients that are connected to the domain. We'll add DNS server. DNS resolves the IP address to computer names. Okay. And we'll also add Active Directory domain services. Sure, we'll add that. Okay, and later on we might connect some servers to the domain with different services. So we'll be using those as well, but that'll be later. Okay. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to click next. All right, don't need any of these right now. We'll click next. Click next, next. Okay, it's going to click up next and install. So let's go ahead and click close here. Let's click on, actually exit that out. So here we can complete the DHCP configuration, promote the server to domain controller, which we're going to do next. We'll go ahead and put in for the domain name, put in IT lab. Yes, labs. All right, now IT lab. To make this one unique. That's pretty unique. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and click add new forest. itlab.com. Click next. So this is a new domain. This is creating a new forest. We're not adding an existing domain. We're setting up a new one. So we'll go ahead and click next on that. All right, so for this option, looks like we're just gonna have to wait for this to finish loading, but you have to go ahead and input a password here. We're just gonna input a password here. Password should be the same password you used earlier, so you don't forget it. So click next. All right, DNS delegation for DNS delegation. See what happens when I click this. All right, that's fine. Click next. All right, click next and next. Okay, you just have to wait for that to finish and click install. All right, so I clicked install. Now it's installing. We'll give it a second to finish installing here. All right, so I'm gonna click close on that. Because we're finishing up this install, it's gonna restart here. All right, and just let that finish. All right, so next you're gonna go ahead and click input, Control delete. Now you can see you're signing into your domain here. Just put in your password. And it should be signed in now. All right, so give it some time. Should load the other services that we added to this server. There they are. All right, looks pretty good. The only thing we're missing now is the DHCP server hasn't been fully set up. We'll go ahead and set it up right now. Complete DHCP configurations. Next. All right, we'll go ahead and commit. Close. And let's go ahead and check our flag. Complete DHCP configurations. Should be completed already. Awesome. So now what you can do, and you can just like refresh this and you'll see that flag go away probably. Let's see here. Yeah, all right. Tools, DHCP, see your lab here, IPv4. We'll go ahead and just click on IPv4, new scope, next, name. So we'll put this as area 1 for our scope. Next, put in our IP address. So starting IP address, right now we're using 192.168.1.10. We'll go ahead and change this to 192.168.1. You could always verify that by typing CMD. Open up IP config. You can see we're using 110, right? So 1. We'll use something other than 10. So we'll use, we'll just go like 50. Any IP address 192.168.1. We'll make this 100. Okay. Actually, let's do some subnetting here. So we'll make it a /25, which means we have 100 IP addresses available in the first subnet and 128 IP addresses available in the second subnet. So if I start off at 128, I'm going to put 254. Next. Start IP address, any IP addresses. So if you want to exclude any IP addresses, you can put them here. Since we're using 192.168.1.10, I want to exclude that. I don't want that IP address being taken up. It's already static, but we just want to make sure we reserve a few IP addresses for devices that are going to require static IP addresses. So we'll go ahead and start off at 1. And we'll end it at 11. Oh, okay. Actually, we'll go ahead and click next one. All right, next. Yep, we'll configure it now. This is going to be the IP address of the gateway, which we'll just use this computer as the gateway. All traffic's going to go through our server. In the real world, you have it maybe go through like a proxy server. So add next, next, next here. Let's finish. All right, perfect. So now we can start adding computers to our domain. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and X that. So now setting up the Windows 10 machine is much easier. So I'll go and show you how to do that. Okay, so one thing I want to mention before we close this machine is you're going to want to make like a snapshot of it. So we'll go ahead and just click on take snapshot. Name of the snapshot will be today's date. Set up. All right. So if anything ever goes wrong, we can always revert this virtual machine back to this snapshot. It's pretty helpful. If you run across some issues in our labs, you can just revert it back. So we'll go ahead and click OK. It's going to take some time to load. And it's going to save the machine state. Perfect. Now we'll go ahead and close it out. All right, great. Now let's go ahead and finish up the Windows 10. All right, so now let's go ahead and create another machine. And we'll name this one Win 10. Today's date. All right, perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in a different location because I don't want it in my C drive. All right, so then click next. This is the amount of memory you're given. Click next. Create virtual hard disk. Click next, next, and that location looks good. Click next, and it's going to create it. All right, perfect. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and power this on. Because it doesn't have an image to boot off of, it's going to ask us to provide an image. So we'll do that now. All right, so I went ahead and chose my image and click open, start. And there we go, it's booting from Windows. All right, click next, install now. You notice it gave me the option to repair. Now you can also use these images, like let's say your computer's just not booting. There's images that allow you the ability to download it to a flash drive. Then you change the BIOS settings on your computer, plug it into your computer, and it'll boot off the flash drive. And since it gives that option for like repair, you'll be able to repair it. Now, we're not upgrading it, we'll just do custom. All right, click next. And just let it install. All right, so we'll go ahead and click yes. Just wait for that to load. Right about now, I wish I had given it more RAM because it is taking a while to load. All right, we'll click yes. That. Skip that. All right, so here it's asking to sign in to our Microsoft account. That's not happening. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna click join domain instead. Okay, we'll just type admin in there. Okay, you can go and put in your password. Something you're gonna remember. All right. Oh, this is kind of new. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pause this. All right, here we go. So I'm gonna say no, Microsoft, do not track me. All right, I'm gonna click accept. Not now. All right, so we're logged in now. What we're going to do is we're going to say this, the state of this machine. So we're going to do a snapshot. So this is before joining the domain. I'll put today's date. Okay. All right, and then we'll do another snapshot after we join the domain. Now, in order for this to work, we're going to have to make sure our server is on. So I'm going to go and power that on real quick. All right, great. So now our server's up. We'll go ahead and log into it real quick. Okay, my virtual machine's being a little weird right now. So what we'll do is I'll continue this video and we'll join it to the domain.